Hey guys, and welcome to Stock Talk on August 27th. We're looking at the SPY, or the S&P 500, on the 180-day chart. So before we get started, we have a lot of tickers to go over as always, so thank you for all of your submissions and welcome to the channel, of course. So looking at the S&P 500, we're on the Thinkorswim platform, and you guys can see that I've removed some of the old lines. Why did I remove them? Well, they're not really significant anymore. For example, I had, I think, a support line over here at 284, but it's unlikely that we'll fall there in the near future. So what have we been saying in previous videos? I'm just going to reiterate this. We're on a bullish streak. This is a bullish market, and the market will continue to be bullish even if we have a small correction until there's a major trend change. Do we see a trend change in terms of the markets right now? And the answer obviously is no. But one thing I have put in is a higher high line, and you guys can see that the next probable resistance is around the 291 to 292 area. But regardless, the markets are heading higher, and there's nothing wrong with this chart at all. You know, I always kind of find it a little surprising when, you know, people talk about preparing for bear markets. Sure, you know, if the bear market comes, you know, we'll know about that. But in a bull market, when we're making new highs, you know, it's almost, you know, irrational to think that we're going to start coming down and start speculating we might be coming down in a few weeks, a few days, a few months. You know, when it comes, we'll get to that point when we get to it. But, you know, but right now, really nothing wrong with the markets. I can almost argue that this long consolidation period is now doing what? It's playing out to the upside, so we could see significantly higher prices to come. Not that being, you know, me being, you know, a really big bull, but you guys just can see from the chart that, you know, we've managed to cross the previous high after this long consolidation period. If I gave you this, this was a, let's say, a 20-day chart, and it looked like this, what would you say after it broke the previous high? You would say, oh, it's probably going to go higher because it consolidated for this long. It broke over the previous high. Generally, that means higher prices are to come. So right now, how do we look into investing in the market, in my opinion? So my opinion is that if we do see a dip, that could be the good signal to go into the market, right? If we do see that dip. But right now, markets are trending higher. Nothing wrong with this chart. Let's take a look at volatility, or TVIX. So this is one that we like to look at just to see what's going on. You know, generally, as markets are pushing higher, volatility would be pushing lower. Now, we picked out a very interesting trend in the last video, and such that volatility wasn't budging as much. You know, the markets, the Dow Jones, have been hopping hundreds of points higher every day, while volatility today, as you can see, you know, Dow Jones went up a couple hundred points again, but volatility went up 0.5%. That's interesting to note. What does that mean? People are expecting some sort of correction in the near future. Is it going to be that 10% correction? You know, not necessarily. Again, like I said, we're in a bull market. If we see some sort of dip, in that case, volatility has the chance to rebound a little bit before it continues down further. That's just perfectly normal market behavior in a bull market. All right, let's take a look at a couple of your tickers. Oh, not your tickers. What am I doing? Yeah, so let's take a look at commodities really quick. So let's take a look at the yearly chart of crude oil, or /CL. Recall yesterday's video, in the weekend's video, we said what? And I like to bring up, you guys might be like, well, Kevin, why do you always bring up, you know, recall blah, blah, blah? Why do you talk about the past? Well, it's because you look at my analysis in the past and see whether, hey, did that come true? You know, whether that was a correct analysis, or did we have to change the analysis the next day to compensate for some sort of trend that we observed? Well, in this case, looking at crude oil, we said in the last analysis, yesterday's video, we said that there was a good chance that crude oil could go higher, and that we had the confirmation of the 20 EMA right here, and that could have been, you know, if you wanted to, your entry point into crude oil, because that, you know, here's the confirmation that we're moving higher, and you guys can see that we did in fact move higher. What does that mean for crude oil? Crude oil continues to push higher. As a matter of fact, yes, we have a near-term resistance at $69.12. Yes, we have a near-term resistance at $70. But we can certainly break those resistances as we have taken the bearish pattern off the table. So that is just something that you want to be noticing. And if you're actively participating in crude oil, not to say that you have to join in right now because we might be a little overextended. We're at a near-term resistance, but you guys can see the opportune time for entering crude oil was perhaps around that area, right? The ticker to look at is UWT. So here's the UWT. Pretty much you guys can see the resistance line that I drew on Sunday's Stock Talk, right? Yesterday was at 36.86. What happened today? We're still at the resistance line, which is why I told you guys, this is something just to be looking at. You make sure you are aware of what's happening, but doesn't have to be, you don't have to go into the position if you don't feel the risk is worth it. And right now we're at the resistance area. /NG or natural gas. Here we go. Here's natural gas. What happened today? So all of a sudden we are moving lower. And we talked about it here when we're supposed to release out of UGAZ or, inverse, which follows natural gas, UGAZ, and that we were supposed to release our shares around here. And that's just how it was. And now you guys can see that now we're going below the 20 period moving average. So, that's just something that's interesting to note. And the ticker that you have to be interested in that case is DGAZ or inverse natural gas. You guys can see DGAZ went higher today, reconfirmed the 20 EMA line, and the probable trajectory for this one is to the upside. But remember, again, I would like to caution you guys, because if you guys went in now and it dips, you would have been like, well, Kevin, aren't you wrong? Well, if it dips, it certainly could rebound afterwards as well. Therefore, what was the best time to go into inverse natural gas if you wanted to go in? And that would be at the support area if you really wanted to in that case. Remember, the best entry points are areas in which you're closest to risk. So that is something you guys for you guys to look at as well. /GC, gold futures. Right, we talked about the potential for gold to start rebounding. As a matter of fact, it has the potential to continue rebounding quite a bit. So /GC follows the ticker JNUG or JNUG, and this one continues to move higher. That, right now, gold continues to move higher. As we push higher, this is the ticker that we have to be looking at. So far, we talked about the reversal trend, and now it's playing out as we expected. So, all right. Let's take a look at your tickers right now. So we'll start with the ticker that was submitted on Facebook. So the first one is Momo. So this one, you guys, if you're shorting it, you might have been caught, but you guys like this one because it moves rather quickly. I can see why you like it. So here's the thing, right? You can't really see a very predictable trend with this one. You can see that there's a near-term support at around 34.56, which we didn't really hit exactly, but you guys can see that we got very close to it. And then now, what are we doing? We're gapping higher pretty much every single day, and now we actually went through this resistance rather effortlessly, so I'm going to remove that one. And we closed at the top of where, right? You guys can see the top of the resistance area. So, that is something just to keep in mind. What do you think is going to happen? So if you're shorting this one, and you're playing this kind of looks like what chart? The chart that we looked at kind of looks like crude oil, right? You guys are thinking, well, this is the, resistance area, as we can see, and we closed right here. However, when we came up, started gapping up, that really took the bearish pattern off the table, similar to crude oil. Doesn't mean we can consolidate here or perhaps, move it down a little bit as we are overextended. But right now, obviously the momentum is towards the upside. And therefore, if you're shorting it, you have to know when you're wrong in that case. And you're wrong, when you have a daily close over the resistance line. And you just got to be careful with this one because this is really fast moving. As you guys can see, we closed 7% higher today. So anywho, that's just my spiel on this stock. Thank you for your submission. Addy, BRZU. So can you take a look at BRZU? And this is the Brazilian ETF at 3 times leverage. So I like it. That's good. Thank you, Addy, for the submission, and you have a very good eye on this chart. You've seen that here is the ETF, and we're at a near-term support at 1631. Today, you guys can see the amount of potential. Even this small candle, it was an 8% move to the upside. So this is a good one to look at. I think if you invest in this one, great job. There's really nothing wrong with this chart. Good job. I mean, obviously it's on a downtrend, but near-term support, I like it. Good call out. Moviegoer, can we take a look at Chipotle? Chipotle. Let's take a look. What are we looking at right now? Okay. So I see what we're seeing right now. So one thing for Chipotle is right now, what are we doing? We're obviously on an uptrend long term. Short term, we could be in for a small, correction or retracement. And that is completely normal. Look how overextended we are. And therefore, you guys want to be cautious because this one could come down, retest the, this area around 470. And then possibly go higher at that point. So I would place a little bit of caution at this point right now. But this is a nice stock to look at, I think, in the long term. But in the short term, I think we just have to avoid it. All right. I mean, it might go up, right? It might go up 4% tomorrow. But if that occurs, we'll reevaluate at that time. But right now, it just doesn't look like the opportunity. Charles Schwab, SCHW, Rizwan. So Charles Schwab. Yeah, so you guys can see there's a near-term support at $50 exactly. And it's at 51.37. Let's take a look at the longer-term trend. Yeah, so this one, again, a pretty good trend. I like it. Thank you for pointing this one out as well. This is yeah, another good. Who said this? So guys, we have a couple of great tickers. Thank you, Addy. Thank you, Rizwan, for this ticker. Again, this is a good time to be looking at Charles Schwab as well. Wow. That's all I have to say. Good job. Okay. Chris, thank you for your comment. Oh, UPS. Okay, sorry. So here we go. UPS. Okay, so for UPS, the thing about this chart is I like the trend. However, you have to ask yourself once again, when are you going to leave the stock once you've, had that amount of profit? I think there's potential for this one to move higher, sure. But however, what happens? Look how fast it dips, right? Look at the size of these candles. When it starts dipping, it dips rather quickly. And you certainly don't want to be, caught in that movement, right? Look at how quickly it moves right downwards. You don't want to be caught in that movement. So while I like it short term, this one, I might not like it for long-term trading. So yeah, just keep an eye on that. All right. Nathan, Walmart. Okay. So for Walmart, here's the deal with Walmart, right? Remember after earnings, we had this massive spike and we sold off. And then I think you guys asked me to analyze Walmart. And I said, what? We just had earnings, right? We had a massive move to the upside. I would wait, right? Because at the time, you can imagine these candles weren't there and it looked very lopsided. You guys can see the chart where, here was the resistance area, actually right about right here. And we started selling off. So right now, we can't really revisit it, right? We're still doing what? We're still selling off right now. So I think if you like slower stocks, perhaps you want to wait a couple more days, maybe a week or two before revisiting this one, in my opinion. So yeah, that's that. Space Ghost, AMD. All right, guys, AMD. Here's the dealio with AMD, in my opinion, because AMD at one point was over 10% today. And here lies how the stock market loves to trick you. This is just one thing that will be taught in the course, which is being released, guys, sometime this week. Whether it's around the weekend time or sometime this week, the course is getting released, and it has all this and more. You guys will get, private stock talks, You guys will get some monthly tickers to watch. You guys get to talk with me on Discord. So a lot of great things. In the meantime, here's AMD. How did they trick you? Well, we had really high volume today, 323 million. That is quite the move, as a matter of fact. 323 million. Look at this massive green spike, and this is more than double the usual volume for AMD on a yearly scale. So this would have been a good trend, right? But then look what happened. We started to sell off, and we sold off significantly. Now, what does that mean for AMD? Well, you guys can see that anytime, so we're at around right here. If you guys invested in AMD anytime around here, you would have been even or losing money by now. Doesn't mean that you entered at the wrong time, but I just want to show you guys how, if it started falling and you entered around here and started falling so dramatically and you sold your position, you would have taken a loss. And that's how the market traps you into making the wrong decision. Just a quick hint. Anywho, for AMD, what are we looking at the yearly chart? We see a reversal signal on the short term. Does that make sense? Yeah, it makes sense that we could start, perhaps go a little higher, but as long as we don't close above this area, we could see a short-term downtrend to the where? To the 20-period moving average, right? So short-term downtrend. Overall, is there anything wrong with the pattern? There's really nothing wrong with this pattern. This is a very fast-moving right now to the upside. But just want to be cautious right now as we have formed the short-term reversal signal. All right. ATHM, is there a reversal sign for bullish? Okay, so here is ATHM, and we're looking at near-term support at 76.15. Now, is there a reversal? So that's interesting, right? This is an interesting one to be looking at right now. Actually, I'm going to mark the support right here. And where did we close at? Is this unusual to see that we closed right at the 20-period moving average? No. So if you guys did get in around the support area, then you could have taken advantage of this move. It could short-term reverse. Yeah, it could. However, you guys can see that we have a buy signal that's been triggered today. Whether we cross that or not, I would want to wait for a confirmation, some sort of confirmation. If you guys bought in at the end of the day, you're just, again, want to make sure you do have a stop loss ready in case you're wrong. And that's just one to be, again, I think cautious about, as we are below all the moving averages as well. That is a dangerous signal. So I think this one has the potential to recover. We just need to see more upside to it. And Yutai, thank you for your comment. And Addy Boy, wow, we have quite a bit of things to talk about today, right? So pizza, yeah. So this is one that I actually took a position when we saw the reversal signal down here after the earnings report. Of course, there was catalyst and news involved with this one as well. However, this is Papa John's right here, and we're looking at a declining pattern, and that's one that you have to take note first. And then the next thing is right now, where are we? We're over the 20-period moving average. However, you guys got to realize that this is a declining pattern, and there are several resistance areas along the way. One of which I think is around, the $50 mark. So that, of course, is a little farther away from now. But right now, we're on a short-term reversal back to the upside. Long-term, I don't see it. I don't see this recovering. But in the short term, I think, it's been reversing so far, so good. 5-year chart. Million. Do I have a website to look up? Is Facebook mandatory for the course? Yeah, I answered your question. So Facebook, you guys know we do have a Facebook group. It's not mandatory, but it's nice to be on that group, because I do talk a little bit about trends sometimes during intraday as well. So if you guys do have a Facebook profile, be sure to kind of take a look at that if you want to. Wow. All right, let's take a look at Lulu. All right, so for Lululemon, this is another rather stellar stock that has been outperforming market standards. And, there's really, once again, nothing wrong with this stock. This is looking very nice. Is this the best entry point? I could argue it, probably not the best entry point. I would probably wait for some consolidation at this point. However, it has certainly the potential to move higher as well. So, this is a good one to look at. I like when people, for some reason, people love to tell me stocks after it's been moving up significantly. So, once it waits consolidation, that's the time I would, be extremely interested. But right now we've had the up move. Okay, BOTZ for long-term entry. This is what, guys? This is robotics? Interesting. So for this ticker, I would once again caution just a little bit. I think this one has the potential to move higher as well, but we're nearly there to a buy signal. Not quite there yet. I would want to see a pop over the 20-period moving average and a reconfirmation of that period. Right now, we just started today. In my opinion, it's just a little too early to tell. If you got it in at the support, you wouldn't have to be worrying about these quandaries, right? About, oh, should I get in or should I not? Because this was a support area. But, yeah. Thank you for that submission. Saying, how can we always be right just like you? Well, I'm not always right. I just need to be right most of the time. And that's my purpose here in projecting the course, projecting, to you guys in terms of stock talks. So, for example, CRON, right? This is one that, I never expected to pop this much. And I think there was a person here who, talked about CRON when it was breaking down through the wedge pattern. And here was the support, and you guys can see that it went up yet another 21% before we closed. Yeah, we popped to 1289 before it's now trending back up again. So, that's just something to note. We don't have to catch every trend, but we just want to be right most of the time. So, all right, guys. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hit the like button if you haven't already, if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another Stock Talk, and happy trading. See you later.